Hello and welcome. This is Microsoft Flight Simulator and this is the Phoenix Airbus A320. And today I would like to start a teeny tiny mini series called Finer Points. Finer Points is about small details in the cockpit or on the aircraft, because I've noticed whenever I mention small details that we need to take care of in the real world, you guys really seem to enjoy it. And I think, why not? It does increase the realism, it does increase your situational awareness, so why not discuss some of these small things that you need to take care of in the real world and that you can simulate at home to make your flying experience that little bit more realistic. Okay, 2 topics to cover today, let's get started. So the first topic we are going to talk about today is here on the ground. There's a colleague just leaving to depart. So yeah, as you can see, we are just getting ready for departure. The air bridge is still connected. The cargo doors are still open, but that's about to change. We're gonna close up everything now and we're gonna get ready for push and start. So we are pretty much ready to go now. Everything has been removed, the APU is running, and at this point most people switch on the beacon lights as a warning to everyone on the ground that we are now going to start push and start. And this is in itself not incorrect, but there is usually, from what I can see with some of the videos on YouTube, a slight problem. So let me go back down here, and if you can see here, everything is removed. We can remove the GPU, so everything is removed apart from the chocks. And then what I see is people attach the tug, remove the chocks and start the pushback. This would actually not be possible in the real world, and the reason is that the second you switch on the beacon lights, this is an indication to the ground crew that they are no longer allowed to approach the aircraft. So this is why when you watch aircraft taxiing into the parking position, they switch off the engines, they sit there for a while, but nobody will approach the aircraft until these lights are switched off. And the same is happening here. And I've actually had this happening to me a few times already, like, I don't know, 7-8 times so far in my career. We thought the chocks had been removed. We switched on the beacon lights, went through the checklist, and then we sat here. All the ground staff was standing away from the aircraft and nothing happened. It was not until the ramp agent called us and told us that the chocks are still in place. Could you please switch off the beacon lights so that we can remove them, that we realized that we were a bit too eager. So you switch off the beacon lights, they remove the chocks, and then you switch them back on. And so what I would really like to point out here is that the beacon lights are the very last thing to come on before you start moving. So make sure that everything has been removed, the chocks have been removed, the pushback truck is connected, and once everybody tells you we are ready to go, everything is in place, then switch on the beacon lights. Because once they're on, nobody is allowed to approach the aircraft anymore. So it's a small detail, but if you want the full realism, keep that in mind. Only switch them on once you have removed the chocks. That's the correct order. It wouldn't work any other way in the real world. Okay, so I've taken you airborne now, and what we are going to discuss next is the flap setting for the approach. So it's a beautiful day here today, but we are going to pretend that it's quite windy and gusty, and we expect a rather turbulent approach. And maybe on the 80s there's even a mention of possible wind shear. In situations like this, Airbus recommends that we fly a flaps 3 approach. Now, why would we do that? Most people will say, well, if you have to do a go-round, you have a lot less drag. And that is correct, of course. Flaps 3 is not as drag intense as flaps full, and it increases your climb performance. If you have a wind shear, that could be very important. But actually there is another reason, something that a lot of people don't usually talk about. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so we want to fly a flaps 3 approach. You probably are aware of this. You go to the approach page and you select config 3, and in addition up here you press the landing flap 3 button, and that will ensure that the aircraft knows what's going on. There won't be any GPWS warnings, and the aircraft will understand that flap 3 is the final configuration. Okay, so we are established on the ILS. As you can see, we have flaps 3 set. Here we have a reminder, GPWS flaps 3, the gears down. We are fully set for the approach. Please be aware that with flaps 3 you have a slightly different pitch attitude on the approach, and especially on the A321 the risk of a tail strike is a bit higher than usual. The main thing I want to focus on though now is the fact that whenever you give an input here on the side stick, you never ever actually move any flight surfaces. Instead, what you do is you give commands to a lot of computers, and these computers interpret what it is you want and move the flight control surfaces in accordance to achieve that goal. And so there are some limitations programmed into all of these computers, and one of them is quite important for a flap 3 approach. Now we've discussed this already, but just as a reminder, at low levels, low speed, whenever you give an input on the side stick for roll, both the ailerons and the spoilers will deflect. And here's the thing, if you fly an approach with flaps full, the maximum aileron deflection and the maximum spoiler deflection is 11.5 degrees and 3 degrees. However, if you fly with config 3, the computer will allow you a maximum deflection of 18 degrees and 8 degrees for the aileron. So as you can see, that's a big difference between the two. And so what that means is you have a lot more control authority, and the aircraft will be a lot more responsive when you fly an approach with flaps 3. Of course, the argument that you have less drag in a go-around and during a wind shear event is valid, but on top of that the aircraft will also be a lot more responsive, and I think that's a quite important point. And that is already that. So two small facts that maybe you want to bear in mind when you do your simulated flying. I thought I'll talk about these little details because, like I said at the beginning, some of you always seem to enjoy them, and if you want to hear more, then maybe I can go through the manuals and dig out some more, and we can discuss them, and maybe it will help you to make your flying on the simulator a bit more realistic. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this short video. I hope it was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then, all the best. Bye bye.
100, 50, 40, 30, 20, retard.